Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com and this is Graded for NXT and 205 Live, in which I take a look at each show segment by segment and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. So without any further ado, let's hit the intro. Now, as you all know by this point, we start off every week, as my title suggests, with 205 Live, and this week we kick things off with Lucha House Party coming to the ring. Kalisto welcomes everybody to 205 Live, and apparently we're in Toledo and it's snowing and it's really cold outside and they're all pretending to shiver and stuff despite the fact they're in a red hot arena. And he says the only way to warm up is to have a Lucha House Party. Apparently the night before on Raw they couldn't finish their duet with Aliyah, and so to make up for that, Grand Metalik wants to sing us a song, and as he's clearing his throat really loudly into a microphone and getting ready to sing, and he pulls his mask just that little bit tight around his neck, Jack Gallagher's music hits, and out comes Jack Gallagher and Drew Gulak. So the first match of the night is going to be Jack Gallagher with Drew Gulak at ringside versus Lince Dorado with Lucha House Party at ringside. Gallagher manages to avoid Lince's Lucha offense pretty quickly, pretty strongly as well. He manages to keep him on the mat and he starts with the joint manipulation. Lince then dumps Gallagher to the outside, but he's able to knock him back with a baseball slide, so kicks him back toward the announce table, and just as he goes for a dive and he's going to put him through the announce table, Gulak is screaming at Gallagher to get him to move. Gallagher moves out the way, the dive can't go through. Back in the ring, and Gulak calls Lince Dorado Lindsay Dorito, and Gallagher manages to cut him off on the top rope. This means that Lince drops and Gallagher is able to lay in some brutal, horrible looking strikes into his spine before planting him with a backbreaker. Gallagher then takes it to Lince with a series of strikes and stretches because, as we all know, he has a very strong MMA background, but Lince manages to hurl him to the outside and he hits a springboard plancha, and it's a little bit scary, and obviously he didn't do it on purpose, but he comes in a little bit too high on the landing and it looked like he sort of drove his knee into his head. Luckily, the weight was on the other side of him when he landed and the leg just seemed to sort of superficially land over the face, but had that been the other way around and had he been rotating into it, that could have been really, really nasty. Nigel then sings La Cucaracha, which was sort of weird and like your uncle at Christmas who's just that little bit folksy racist. I think somebody really should collect all of Nigel's weekly singing because it's just a thing he does now. Every single week it's a different song. Back in the ring, Lince manages to hit this beautiful rolling kick before hitting the trifecta of moonsaults. He gets the first two off absolutely fine, goes for the third one, Gallagher raises his knees and cuts him off. Gallagher then locks in a single leg Boston Crab, and Lince escapes, hits him with a super kick, sends him stumbling toward the ropes, and then Gallagher hits a wacky line, because I guess somebody has to these days, and he still can't pick up the three. Lince hits the golden rewind, but it amounts to nothing, and then the pair start trading strikes and strikes and strikes. Lince then eventually goes for a top rope Rana, which Gallagher somehow manages to hold himself onto, and it goes into a roll-up pin, which he uses to pick up the three. Gallagher is then celebrating in Gulak's arms. They're jumping up and down and screaming yes, and Gulak looks directly down the camera at ringside, because he's been on commentary this entire time, looks directly down the ringside camera while embracing Gallagher, and essentially tells Carrillo, you know, this is what you could have if you would join us. I'm going to give this one a really, really strong C+. Not quite a B-, but just a really, really strong C+. I think it was a great little match. I loved it, but it felt a little paint by numbers in places. We then go backstage and Kayla is there, and out comes Humberto Carrillo from his locker room, and she's like, Humberto, did you see the match? Carrillo says he feels very fortunate that they're taking an interest in him, and you know, if two of the best wrestlers in the world are interested in training him, then he should at least go and hear them out. We then keep it backstage, and Daivari says that he's got this far in his career by being alone, and everything he's going to do from now on is going to be for himself, because all the time he's been wrestling, he's always been alone, and that's an absolute load of bollocks. I mean, for starters, he is a one-time ICW tag champion with his brother and an NWA Wisconsin tag team champion with Dysfunction, so he's definitely worked with other people before. We then keep it backstage again, and Mike Kanellis says that he's worked so hard for 16 years and he didn't come to WWE, he didn't get here to be treated like a joke and to just be fed to people to beat. Maria tries her best to calm him down, and she says that legends aren't made by just any match, they're made by the match. So obviously they've got another little plan bubbling away. And then we go to the ring for tonight's main event, which is Noam versus Tony Nese in a no DQ match that is somehow supposed to contain all of their feud and anger and aggression. I don't understand the mentality behind that, but let's keep going. Dar starts the match off strong by jumping Nese while he's posing on the apron, and then he takes him all the way around the ring, just throwing him about, and drives him into the ring steps. Dar then takes the bottom bit of the steps and sets them up, and he plants Nese crotch first on the crowd barricade, runs at him, jumps off the steps, and hits a weird Superman punchy looking clothesline and takes him out. Pretty much straight after this was a really inventive spot, and I actually absolutely loved it. Dar takes Nese's fingers and he slides them through the actual turnbuckle part of the turnbuckle. Now, a turnbuckle on a wrestling ring has two hooks or loops. One will attach to the post, one will attach to the ropes via a ring on the rope. But there's this weird bit in the middle which you'd usually use a screwdriver or some tightening tool to tighten up. And there's a slot in the center and it's just wide enough for human fingers to fit through. Dar starts pulling on them and his fingers go purple. It looked brutal. Nese then drives Dar into the post twice, throws him into the barricade, grabs a chair and gets back in the ring. He drags Dar back into the ring, sets up the chair and bridges him so that his feet are on the ropes and his head is on the chair. And then he just goes out onto the apron and hits a massive springboard moonsault onto it. It was horrible looking. Dar then starts a comeback, but he keeps getting cut short, and then he eventually suplexes Nese into the corner, but he can't pick up the 3. Nese then rolls to the outside, and so does Dar. Dar lifts up the skirt, pulls out a mountain of chairs, just about 5, 6, 7 chairs and a table. Dar goes running at Nese with the chair. Nese stops him, and then Nese goes charging at Dar, who then lifts him up and over and onto the big pile of chairs. It was rank. It was proper bad. Back in the ring, Dar's got a chair. He puts it underneath Nese's leg and starts driving the knee into the leg, and then Nese manages to somehow, after Dar locks in a single leg Boston Crab, grab the hand and manipulates the fingers, and he gets full extension on that little thing. It's like down here. I don't know if Dar's double jointed or what, but it was rank. It was awful. Nese then grabs Dar and hits a pump handle driver onto the flat chair. Nese comes charging him with a forearm. Dar manages to get a chair up in time, and he drives his arm straight into the chair. He then grabs Nese by the arm, slots the chair over, and locks in a Fujiwara armbar, and it's horrible. Nese has to roll through while his arm's trapped in the chair and force a pin so that Dar has to break it, basically. Both men then spill to the outside, and Dar sets up the table. Nese then sends Dar sailing into the steps, and he motions toward the table. As he turns back round to Dar, Dar throws him into the steps. There's a really nasty bit where Dar has an armbar locked in on Nese, and he's sort of lying right on the apron. He's got him in an armbar. Nese deadlifts him and plants him on the steps, and they're both exhausted at this point and both just sort of lying there prone. And then Dar locks it back in, and Nese has to once again pick him up, just deadlift him while he's attached to his arm, step up on the steps, and he plants him through the Spanish announce table. Throughout the match, Dar has been working on Nese's leg, and he locks in an ankle lock, and Nese has to crawl all the way to the edge of the ring, grab a chair, and use it to force the break. We then go back to the outside. Dar comes charging at Nese, who has a chair. He's going to hit him with a knee. Nese gets the chair up in time. Dar goes down, and then he locks the chair around the ankle and double stomps it. Nese then charges Dar with a running knee, and both men go sailing through the barricade. With Nese's leg injured, he's having a really hard time dragging Dar back into the ring, but he manages, rolls him in, gets him pinned, and he picks up the 3. I'm going to give this one an A. I thought it was an incredible match with some really, really inventive spots. I think that the storytelling was amazing, and I think that both men really sold the desperation of the match and their feud, and I think their feud is probably far from over. We then go backstage for the final segment of the night, and it's Drake Maverick chairing the contract signing for Elimination Chamber between Akira Tozawa and Buddy Murphy. Tozawa signs, and Murphy offers him a selfie with the belt. He says, "You can even use my phone to take it because it's as close as you're ever going to get to it." Murphy says, "I beat you at the Rumble, so how can you think you have a chance of winning?" He reiterates that it's his destiny to be the greatest cruiserweight champion of all time, and that once again, you can't stop the unstoppable. Tozawa then says, "Yeah, you think you're unstoppable, but then so did the king of the cruiserweights, and I took his title from him." And then that's it, we go off the air. So I think I'm going to give this week's episode of 205 Live an A-. I enjoyed the opener, but I think I was a tiny little bit let down by it. I thought it was just felt in places a little bit paint by numbers, as I said. But overall, I thought it was a really strong episode this week, and I'm super excited to see Murphy versus Tozawa at Elimination Chamber. But enough about 205 Live, on to NXT. So NXT this week opens with a cold open card for Pedro Morales, which I thought was a really nice touch. I think he's somebody that maybe hasn't received the accolades and the adoration that he deserved through the ages. But we go straight into Full Sail, and the opening match of the night is Dominik Dijakovic versus Shane Thorne. Dijakovic attempts to bully his way into control really early. Thorne manages to work the arm and lay in some kicks before keeping Dijakovic under control with a wrist lock. He does eventually manage to break free though, obviously, and he starts laying in strikes before he hits a massive lariat. He does manage to break free, and both men trade chops before Dijakovic hits a lariat and a massive, horrible looking suplex. Pretty quickly after this, Dijakovic looks like he's about to go for a choke slam, and Thorne is able to cut him off and hit him with a really nasty looking high angle suplex. Thorne goes up top, but Dijakovic cuts him off and both men trade blows. Dijakovic obviously gets bored because he hits a backflip into the ring and then connects with a super kick, sending Thorne to the outside. He then hits a ridiculous springboard corkscrew plancher, which wipes Thorne out completely. He then scoops him up, throws him in the ring, hits the Feast Your Eyes, and picks up the 3. Dominik Dijakovic is our winner. I'm going to give this one a C+. It didn't do a lot for me personally, but I thought it was going to be a super quick squash, and at least Thorne got to show off some offense. He showed that he's able to keep somebody like Dijakovic down, and Dijakovic still looks like an unstoppable monster, so win-win in that department, I guess. We then go backstage, and the Undisputed Era tell us that it's still there, yeah, they just got off to a bit of a bad start. They are going to regain their gold, and nobody is going to be able to stop them. They say they're definitely going to have the gold by the end of the year, and Ricochet is going to learn that lesson tonight. We then keep it backstage for a pre-record where Io Shirai and Kairi Sane are being interviewed, and Io Shirai says that she is going to take the gold from Shayna. She is going to be the next NXT Women's Champion before they're cut off by Bianca Belair, who's like, no, it's actually my belt. I'm getting the shot before you get the shot. So there's some tension already arising in that camp. We then go back to the ring for the next match, and Humberto Carrillo and Stacey Ervin Jr. are already in the ring. Kassius Ohno then comes out and he tells Full Sail how much he hates them, and he's going to go somewhere where he'll be appreciated and realised as the best wrestler on earth. Keith Lee then comes out, punches Ohno in the back of the head, knocks him down, says, "Oh no," and then does his "oh my god" singy thing. Then he tells him not to let the door hit him on the ass on the way out. He then asks the audience to pardon the interruption, and out come the Street Profits, so it's going to be Humberto Carrillo and Stacey Ervin Jr. versus the Street Profits. Carrillo and Ford start things off, a lot of back and forth going on, fast reversals, strikes, and just usual lucha madness. Both guys attempt a drop kick, and then they get up and shake each other's hands, and Ford is a bit sneaky and he drives Carrillo into his corner. Carrillo starts getting double teamed, but he's able to hit some deep arm drags after hitting 2 ridiculous massive backflips. Dawkins gets the tag and Carrillo drags him into his corner, where Stacey Ervin Jr. gets the tag. Dawkins, though, being the much bigger man, quickly gets control of Ervin Jr. and drags him all the way back to the Street Profits corner. Ford gets back in, starts laying in the strikes and takes it to the mat. Ford then hits this brutal looking suplex where Ervin lands really high on his neck. Carrillo then gets the hot tag, as does Dawkins, and both men start going at it big time. Carrillo finishes this exchange with a massive missile dropkick and then his forward rolly standing moonsault thing that he does. It's really scarily good. Ervin then gets tagged in and hits the tsunami salt, which nearly picks up the 3, but Ford is able to break the pin. Carrillo then takes it to Ford, and Dawkins helps dump Carrillo to the outside, and then they pick up Ervin, put him in the electric chair position, and hit the super blockbuster and pick up the 3. I'm going to give this one a B. Both teams look fantastic. There is such a newfound aggression in the Street Profits that just wasn't previously there, and I think that is going to help propel them to just the stratosphere. On top of that, Ervin had a really good showing, and Carrillo, as always, just impressed. I really hope they start capitalising on him properly in 205 Live. But then after the match, the Profits get on the mic and demand a piece of the title scene. They will do anything they can to get the tag gold, and they're cut off by Bartel and Eichner. Bartel then gets on the mic and says that opportunities are sacred and nobody deserves it more than him and Eichner. Birch and Lorcan come out, and then there starts to be ructions. People are starting to square up to each other in the ring, and it's getting a little bit tense. But then the War Raiders music hits. The War Raiders state that there's been an awful lot of talk about who deserves the belts and who wants the belts, but there's been no fighting for them. So if they want them, they've got to come and get them. But then as they're walking down to the ring, they're jumped by the Undisputed Era, who throw them into the ring, and all of the other teams start having a blast on him. War Raiders, however, somehow manage to fight their way back to their feet and clear the ring in a show of absolute dominance. We then go to Taynara Conti versus Aliyah. Both women lock up with Conti using her judo skills to keep Aliyah on the mat, but neither woman can really get the advantage. Vanessa Bourne then comes to ringside as Aliyah is laying in a series of strikes to Conti. Conti manages to fight back by hitting a series of hip throws and then going to the ropes and hitting an over-the-rope armbar. Conti then goes to the second turnbuckle as if she's going to jump off it, and Vanessa Bourne grabs a leg and Aliyah capitalizes on the distraction. Aliyah locks in a Kimura and starts laying in kicks to the ribs, and Conti has no other real option than to tap, does she? Aliyah picks up the win, and then Shayna storms the ring, with Aliyah and Bourne being taken care of by Shafir and Duke. Shayna then attacks Conti and tells the women's roster of NXT to stay out their way and to not piss them off before walking to the back. Shayna actually sounded angry for once, and that's what I wanted. I'm going to give this one a B-. If it was the match alone, I think it might have been a C-. I thought it was a little bit flat, but the Shayna promo at the end really put a full stop on things. It's going to be interesting to see how long her reign of terror will continue in NXT until everybody bands together to drive her out. We then go to tonight's main event, which is Ricochet versus Adam Cole. There's a lot of back and forth reversals, dodges and strikes to get us started. Cole peels to the outside to avoid a dropkick, and Ricochet hits a massive suicide dive to clear him out. Back in the ring, Cole attempts a sunset flip powerbomb, but Ricochet manages to roll down and get his leg caught on the second rope. Cole then viciously focuses his attack on the left leg of Ricochet, and commentary do a fantastic job of selling the determination of Cole while Ricochet is selling the damage to his leg. I'm just going to refer to my notes for the next bit. Ricochet eventually manages to roll out of the corner, but he can't stand on his leg because it's so injured and he's so good at selling it. He lays in a clothesline, he hits a boot, a tiger feint kit, a diving uppercut and a standing moonsault, but he can't pick up the 3. He then goes to lift Cole, but he can't support the weight. His leg buckles beneath him and he drops. Cole then targets the leg, drives Ricochet up to the top rope and hits an Ushigoroshi for the 2. Ricochet manages to escape a suplex attempt from Cole, and he goes for his rolling Northern Lights suplex, but he can only get the 1 done. When he goes through and tries to plant weight on his injured leg, he just can't get it done. Cole capitalizes on this and hits another Ushigoroshi. Ricochet then avoids the last kiss twice before hitting a reverse Rana. He fights back as best he can with his one leg, and he even hits a one-legged springboard swanton off the top rope. Cole then drives Ricochet up the corner, but Ricochet escapes, hits a horrible looking Frankensteiner and a meaty looking axe kick. He then hulks up, you hear him scream, he hits the double Northern Lights roll through suplex thing he does and the vertigo, and he picks up the 3. But then immediately after the bell, the rest of the Undisputed Era come running down to jump him. Aleister Black comes out to make the save, but he gets leveled for his troubles as well, and we go off the air with the Undisputed Era standing tall. I'm going to give this match an A. It was just a masterclass in how to put on a fantastic match by 2 of the very best that wrestling as an entire thing has to offer. The storytelling and the selling was impeccable, and the desperation of both men to come out on top, that came across so clearly. So, in terms of an overall grade for NXT this week, I'm going to give it an A-. I'm looking forward to seeing where the women's division's going to go under Shayna's personal reign of terror, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the tag division because, oh my god, it looks meaty at the minute. And then, of course, the main event was simply unreal. But anyway, that's been graded for NXT and 205 Live this week. I've been Sam from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter here. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.